Hey, I'm Kinga Philipps on BEONDTV, and today I have the chance to talk to waterman and small business owner James Arthur on his boat, where he's going to tell me about how his passion for the ocean has led him to his latest venture in aquaculture and sustainable seafood, Seatopia. Right, James, thank you for having me in your floating palace, and it truly is that. It's beautiful. And I'm grateful to you for so many reasons. You and I have been friends for a very long time, and you constantly inspire me with your passion for the ocean, conservation. You are a small business owner, and you have been able to blend all of that together. So let's talk about your passion for the ocean first and foremost, and how that led you into that also being a business.
Well, thank you. That's flattering coming from you. I feel like I got really lucky. I feel like there's certain things that I couldn't have foreseen. Like when I was really young, I wanted to be a Shamu trainer. That got in my head really early. It just was so cool. It was much before we understood keeping these incredible creatures in confined spaces was terrible. But that my mom worked at SeaWorld, and so I would go there every Thursday, and it was this thing I would just be enamored by. But to get there, I had to gain experience in marine mammalogy, and the only way to do that was go to a certain university in Hawaii. In order to get into that university, I wanted experience. Anyways, I ended up volunteering at an aquarium, and at that aquarium they had a demonstration hatchery program for steelhead, because steelhead used to swim up into these rivers and marshlands where this estuary and aquarium was at. And so I was exposed to the ideas of aquaculture really early. But it wasn't until 20 years later that I actually had the opportunity to get directly involved with aquaculture.
So define aquaculture, because I think that's still a word that some people might know what it means. Some people have an idea of what it kind of sort of means, has a positive connotation to conservationists, maybe other connotations to others who don't quite know what it means. So define aquaculture.
Sure. So aquaculture is really the practice of bringing fish or shellfish into an environment where they can breed, and then harvesting or raising those animals to maturity and harvesting them, usually for human consumption and sometimes for medical uses. And a lot of generally, as you indicated, a lot of conservationists and a lot of marine biologists are very pro aquaculture. But aquaculture is not always great, because just like any sort of farming practice, you can have commodity products or you can have artisan products. And quite frankly, aquaculture is a relatively new industry, and most of the first aquaculture projects were funded by big ag dollars, and they followed that model of developing commodity products at as low a cost as possible, and they've had a lot of negative impacts on the environment. So just like with farming beef or chickens or tomatoes, it really comes down to the farming practices. Not all farmed tomatoes are bad, not all farmed cattle are bad, but there are some really terrible cattle farms, and then there's some beautiful ones. So same sort of principles when you're sourcing, at your local farmer's market. You ask them, is this organic? Are you guys using pesticides? Same sort of questions with aquaculture. Are you using antibiotics? Is there hormones? What's in the feed? Because what goes into the feed goes into the animals, into the fish, and into us. So you made a very good point in comparing land-based farms to aquaculture and the question that people should ask. So let me ask you those questions. With Seatopia, which is your aquaculture business, it is farm or pen to table, and now it is able to be delivered directly, consumer direct. Yeah. Is that right? Yeah, this is a new thing for us.
Terrific. So we will get to that, but let me ask you, so with Seatopia, how are your fish farmed? How are they raised? What are they fed? Do you use antibiotics?
Right. So those are excellent questions, and those questions need to be asked, in my opinion, at every fish market. And if they don't have those answers, then you probably don't want to be condoning that business. So you've been to the farm in La Paz where the Campache are raised. Those fish are raised in deep water open ocean pens. And because the environment they're in is really clean and the feed that they get is really high quality, they don't need antibiotics. We don't use, corn-based feeds. What we use is the best quality feed feeds that are rich in algae-based oils, and that is the most closely aligned to their natural diets. These fish actually have a higher omega-3 count than the wild relatives of the same fish, and as a result, you get a fish that's super, super healthy, and it doesn't really get sick.
Well, tell me now about the Seatopia business model and how it's evolved during COVID, because you've done something interesting out of necessity, but it's also become kind of a wonderful complement to what you already had.
Yeah. So pre-COVID, we were just selling whole fresh fish directly from the farms to restaurants, in particular farm-to-table restaurants. But when COVID came around and all of the restaurants either closed or switched their business models to not really being able to afford to do like sushi to go or crudo to go, because most of everything we focused on was that, live omega-rich bioavailable sushi grade stuff. So we said, well, how do we send portions direct to people's doors? And so what we did was we invested in processing the fish, blast freezing portions, vacuum sealing it in a freezer safe bag, and packaging it in an insulated box that can ship to somebody's home.
So if someone wanted to order from Seatopia, what are the options? I know that you have the Kampachi farm in La Paz. I've had salmon that came from you guys that was delicious. What are the options that people can buy?
So right now we have trout, salmon, halibut, Kampachi, and there's a couple other fish that are waiting. But we just deliver right now twice a month. So there's a full moon and a new moon delivery, and it gets shipped to people's doors on that lunar cycle. So you can choose to have it delivered once a month or twice a month, and it'll come. Everybody gets their box, all in accordance with the moon. It's really cool to have people. I've had some feedback from some of our customers, and they say, every time I look out and I see the moon getting bigger, I know my Seatopia box is coming and we're going to have sashimi.
All right, James, so tell us, how can people get this new moon or a full moon box full of delicious, sustainable fish from Seatopia?
It's really easy. So yeah, Seatopia.fish is our website. But yeah, it's really simple. You sign up. And the cool thing about it is the prices are super fair. Like, we've actually been able to get the prices to be in line with what you would pay at like Whole Foods for fish, but you're getting better quality. It's totally sushi grade. It's direct from the farms. And on top of that, we're actually giving 1% of all of our sales back to the oceans in the form of helping create more marine protected areas and manage marine protected areas. So 1% of all sales is directed back towards promoting MPAs.
Well, thank you for what you do.
Thank you for caring.
I also care about delicious food and provide that. So
and it's
happy me.
Yeah. Let's eat.